Chapter 37, called The 10th Window from the Green Ember. We are almost done. Look. Heather filed out with all the others, everyone finding their way back to their jobs, families, pains, and pleasures. She walked with Pickett and Uncle Wilfred out into the sunlit air of the village green. The song had gone on for a while, lamenting verses offset by the hopeful refrain, "It will not be so in the mended wood." She thought of all the times she'd heard rabbits in this community counter a despairing word with this phrase. She thought it was only a word of encouragement. She hadn't realized they were singing to each other a song of hope. She knew she loved this community, that they had become her own. Not taking the Long Treader controversy into account, she knew this was a place her parents would have loved. Her father, who was a scholar, would have found a wonderful home among the books and the other scholars who remained. She wished they would have come, or could have come. She knew now why they had no place to go, either within the citadels or Cloud Mountain. She understood now why they had gone so far away. She was saddened by the weight of this reality. What joys she could have grown up with were it not for their family name. Her parents and baby Jax would be safe were it not for that title, Long Treader. Uncle Wilfred, was Uncle Garton a bad rabbit? Uncle Wilfred sighed. "I don't know," he said. "Sometimes I think we're all bad when we focus on our own place." "Is that what he did?" "I think so," Uncle Wilfred said. He began to think less about the grand cause and more about his place in it. He thought less of how he worked to serve King Jupiter and more about what he accomplished. "It's heavy," Pickett said. "I hate the weight of it." "Me too," Uncle Wilfred said. "Don't stop hating it. It's a useful fuel for hard work." "How long?" Heather asked. "How long till it's different?" Uncle Wilfred sighed, then smiled. "I ask myself that question every day, and I don't know the answer." "Why won't King Jupiter's heir come out of hiding?" Heather asked. "Why won't he show up, show the green ember, get himself crowned, and start the war?" "Did King Jupiter even give the green ember to his heir?" Pickett asked. "Did he have the time before he died?" "Yes, he did," said Uncle Wilfred. "So why not fight now?" Heather asked, though it terrified her to think of it. It seemed, as Mrs. Weaver had said, the best terrible option. "I wish it were that simple," Uncle Wilfred said, "but you've had a chance this week to get a glimpse of how fractured our side is. The Citadel lords aren't united on whether or not they would even support the heir, though they all say they would. But many talk of creating a new protectorate where a strong lord leads our side until the heir is ready. Others think we should unite behind Jupiter's oldest son, Winslow. But most of us believe he's as good as a traitor himself, since he's accepted a token governorship of what's left of the Great Wood under Morbin's rule. A petty king pays tribute to keep up appearances." "Isn't it better to do something than nothing?" Heather asked. "Won't the enemy act if we don't?" "Very wisely said, Heather," Uncle Wilfred said. "That's why the lords are here. Everyone knows we need to do something soon before the enemy acts." They sat quietly for a while. Then Pickett and Uncle Wilfred got into a discussion on Randlegam's history of war. Heather looked down into the village and saw a white rabbit making his way toward the near side of the village green. Smalls. He looked troubled. His head was down. "What's wrong with Smalls?" she asked. "I don't know," said Uncle Wilfred. He was concerned. "He hasn't been very talkative lately." Pickett buried his head. He'd never given Smalls anything but trouble. Seeing the small white rabbit still filled him with resentment and embarrassment. "I'll go talk to him," said Heather. "Good," Uncle Wilfred said. "He needs friend these days, as we all do." This made Pickett even more uncomfortable. He felt ashamed. Smalls deserved better. Heather joined Smalls as he returned a hallway round. She sensed his heavy mood, so for a little while neither of them spoke. Just before he passed through the door, Smalls stopped. He looked at Heather, then over her shoulder to where Uncle Wilfred stood talking with Pickett. Heather followed his gaze and saw Uncle Wilfred place his fist over his heart and nod his head. Smalls nodded, put his fist over his heart, then turned and kept walking. He spoke as they entered the doorway. "Heather, I'm going away for a while." "Where?" she said, surprised. "I'm going to try to find my mother. I've heard a rumor about where I can find her, and I think she's in danger." I didn't know your mother was still alive, said Heather. Where is she? She's in a place called Exile Glen, he said, whispering so that no others could hear. They'd reached the long corridor that stretched from hallway round and its 3 doorways down to King Whitson's garden. But you're not going alone, are you? She asked. Surely Uncle Wilfred's going with you. I won't be alone the whole time, he said, but Wilfred's staying here. I hope you know what you're doing, she said. Me too, he said, and doubt was plain in his face, but he mastered it, and a resolute expression replaced it. Please say goodbye for me, he said, to Wilfred, Pickett, and our other friends. Wilfred might be angry that I've gone, but tell him my mother needs me. I'll come back with all those who are with her if I can. I will, she said, tears forming in her eyes. They were in King Whitson's garden now, and he stopped. I have a last errand before I leave. So goodbye, Heather Longtreader. I hope we'll meet again in happier days. She hugged him. Thank you, Smalls. Thanks for saving us at Nick Hollow and for being our friend. She remembered a blessing her mother used to say. Farewell, wherever you go off to. May you find friends aplenty, and of foes find few. He nodded, smiled, and then turned up the path, making his way toward the door into Light Hall. Heather nodded. Goodbye. But when he reached the door, she remembered Kyle. She wanted to warn him not to take her too seriously when she said that she trusted him. She felt a sudden urge to beg him to stay as she ran after him, pulling open the door. Heather hurried through the hallway, heard talking, but it was in no mood to eavesdrop this time. She ran into Light Hall, sliding to a stop as Master Luth and Smalls embraced. They saw her but kept on talking. So, Master Luth, Smalls said, I'm leaving. I wanted to thank you for what you've done and what you will do. It's my honor, Luth Glacier replied. You've done well, and Father would be very pleased with your art, said Smalls. Thank you, Luth Glacier answered. I love your work, and am eager to see what you do next, said Smalls. All my time is spent on the vision of the 10th window, said Luth. There was a pause, and then Smalls said, Me too. Heather was confused. She looked from the 2 rabbits to the window images, all the stories of the fallen king. Then she saw Master Luth's workstation, where glass and instruments lay on benches. A massive cloth was piled in the corner, and the 10th window, partially finished, was uncovered. Her eyes fell on the massive center circle, a half-completed vision of the mended wood. In the topmost panel, above the half-done middle image, she saw the picture of a very familiar-looking white rabbit. He was short but glorious, wearing a crown wreathed in flames, a bright emerald in its center. When Heather looked down, Master Luth was there alone. Where's Smalls? Master Luth turned. He's gone, Miss Longtreader.